chemical formulae, calculations, and equations. Let's revise the structure of the atom. These are models of hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon atoms. In a hydrogen atom, there is a positive proton at the center or in the nucleus surrounded by an electron. Most of the mass of the atom is concentrated in its protons. This is an oxygen atom. It has 8 protons in the center or in the nucleus and 8 neutrons, and it is surrounded by 8 electrons. Most of the mass is concentrated in the nucleus. The heavy particles are the protons and the neutrons. What about a carbon atom? Carbon atom has 6 protons in the center plus 6 neutrons, and these carry most of the mass of the atom. Sulfur has 16 protons and 16 neutrons, so it has 32 particles. Now, also remember that a molecule is made up of atoms. For example, water molecule is made of 1 oxygen atom and 2 hydrogen atoms. So the mass of the water is the mass of the oxygen atom plus the mass of 2 hydrogen atoms. What is the relative atomic mass? M or? Now, scientists cannot measure the masses of atoms because they are very small. Therefore, they decided that they are going to find a relative atomic mass, which is a way to compare the weight of different elements to each other. Now, hydrogen is 1 because it has 1 proton. Carbon is 12 because it has 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Oxygen is 16. It has 8 protons and 8 neutrons. The relative atomic mass is calculated by taking the average mass of an element's atom and comparing this mass to the mass of carbon-12. It is called carbon-12 atom because it has 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Therefore, the relative atomic mass will have a number similar to the number of protons plus the number of neutrons in an atom because they carry most of the weight of the atom. There are here some elements: carbon, sulfur, this is iron, copper, and magnesium. Each element is given a relative atomic mass. For example, the relative atomic mass of carbon is 12. It is the same as the number of protons plus the number of neutrons. Sulfur is 32 because sulfur has 16 protons and 16 neutrons. Iron is 56. Copper is 63 and half. And magnesium is 24. Sometimes you will find this to be in this way. It has 0.5 because it is an average of many isotopes. The relative atomic mass has no units, only a number, 2456, but there is no unit. Moles. What are moles? In chemistry, the mole is the unit of the amount of substance. You can measure the amounts in the lab which go into chemical reaction in 2 ways. You can either measure them in gram or you can measure them in mole. These are some substances, and this is the mole quantities of them and their masses in gram as well. Let's examine. Here, this is carbon. Carbon, 12 gram is 1 mole. Sulfur, 32 grams of sulfur is 1 mole. Iron, 56 grams of iron is 1 mole. This is copper. Copper 63.5 grams is 1 mole. What about magnesium? Magnesium, 24 grams of magnesium is 1 mole. So you can either take the amount of a substance in grams or in moles. 1 mole of water has a mass of 18 grams. And we will learn later how we can calculate the mass, change the mass into moles, and later you are going to change the moles into mass as well. 1 mole of sulfur has a mass of 32 grams, and 1 mole of magnesium oxide has a mass of 40 grams. Now, if 1 mole of water has the mass of 18 grams, so 36 grams is 2 moles, because 1 mole is 18, 2 moles is double the amount, which is 36 grams, or 2 times 18. Since 1 mole of water is 18 grams, 36 grams of sulfur is only 1.125 moles, since 1 mole of sulfur is 32 grams. Now, what about magnesium? 36 grams of magnesium. It is 1.5 moles, because 1 mole of magnesium is 32 grams. So as you can see that the mole in different substances have different masses in grams. Calculating the masses of a mole of a substance. Find the relative mass and then add the unit gram. Let's take an example. What is the mass of 1 mole of oxygen? The relative mass of oxygen is 16, and it is usually given in any question. And it is also the number of protons plus neutrons in many cases. Now, oxygen doesn't exist as one unit, one atom. It's usually a molecule made of 2 atoms. And therefore, we have to multiply 2 times 16. You get 32, and add the unit gram. So 1 mole of oxygen equals 32 grams. Now let's solve another question. What is the mass of 1 mole of calcium chloride? This is the formula of calcium chloride. The relative atomic masses of calcium is 40 and chlorine is 35.5. Now you have to add, if you refer to this formula, it means if you don't have a number, this means it's 1. So there is 1 calcium atom and 2 chlorine atoms in the formula. So how do you find this mass? You find first the relative mass of calcium chloride. Calcium 40, you have 2 atoms times 35. And first you multiply 2 times 35.5, then you add 40, and the result is 111, and the unit is gram. Now another example. What is the mass of 1 mole of iron 2 sulfate crystals? Iron 2 sulfate formula is FeSO4. Since it's crystal, this means that it contains water. Iron sulfate comes with 7 molecules, or crystallized with 7 molecules of water. They give you the relative atomic masses: hydrogen 1, oxygen 16, and Fe 56, and also we have sulfur. Sulfur is 32. The relative atomic mass will be calculated as follows. Iron 56. sulfur 32. The 4 means there are 4 oxygen atoms, so 4 times 16. First you solve the multiplication, then you add to 32 and 56. Now comes the 7 water molecules. H2, this means 2 times 1, and oxygen 16. So these are 18. First solve for what's between the brackets, then multiply times 7, then add all the numbers together. It becomes 278. So the mass of 1 mole of iron 2 sulfate crystals equals 278 grams. Let's calculate the amount of moles in a certain mass of an element. This is the question you're given. You have an amount of water of 36 grams. So the amount given is in gram. What is this in moles? You have to change the mass of water into moles. Now, the relative atomic mass of water is calculated as 2 times 1 for hydrogen plus 16, 18. We have done this. So 1 mole of water has a mass of 18 grams. Now I don't know the number of moles in a 36 gram which is given in the question. So I say I have X mole in 36 grams. How do you solve this in math? You multiply 36 times 1 and then divide by 18 to find X. And that's what we are going. Multiply these two and divide by 18. 36 times 1 is 36. When it's divided by 18, the answer is 2 mole. So my answer is 2 mole. 1 mole of water has a mass of 18 gram and 36 gram is 2 moles. Now let's solve another one. This is about sulfur. What is 36 gram of sulfur in moles? And the atomic mass for sulfur is 32. Therefore, 1 mole of sulfur is 32 grams. Because remember, the mole is the same as the relative atomic mass, but you put gram. I don't know the number of moles of sulfur in 36 grams. So I say X moles means they are unknown of sulfur has a mass of 36 grams. Now, how do you solve this in math? How do you solve an equation in math? You multiply 36 times this number, which is 1, 36 times 1. Then you divide by 32 in order to get X and solve for X. 36 times 1 is 36. When divided by 32, it is 1.125 moles. So the answer, 36 gram, is equal to 1.125 moles. So you can see that each substance has a different mass in the mole. And let's solve for a third one. This one is about magnesium. What's the amount of magnesium? What's the number of moles in magnesium in 36 gram? Again, we know the mass in gram and we want to change this quantity into moles. They give us the relative atomic mass of magnesium. It is 24. 1 mole of magnesium is 24 gram. It's the same as the relative atomic mass. X moles means I don't know them. This is what I'm looking for. Of magnesium is 36 gram, which is given here. Can I solve for X? Yes. Math help us. 36 times 1 divided by this number 24, and the answer is 1.5 moles. So 36 grams of magnesium is 1.5 moles of magnesium. Now remember that mole can be abbreviated، نكتبها بشكل مختصر as MOL، mole instead of mole. So both of them are correct.